My name is Ethan Parker, and I used to believe that the most dangerous thing in Sterling Technologies was a failed project. I was wrong. The most dangerous thing in that company was being called into Victoria Sterling's office and hearing her say, "Close the door, Ethan." Everyone in the building knew what that meant. Victoria Sterling was the CEO of Sterling Technologies, one of the youngest executives to ever take control of a billion-dollar company. She was brilliant, disciplined, and terrifyingly calm. People didn't fear her because she yelled. Actually, she rarely raised her voice. That was what made her intimidating. Victoria could destroy an entire argument with one sentence. She could look at a room full of executives and make everyone question their own decisions without saying more than 10 words. And somehow, I had managed to become the person standing in front of her desk at 8 p.m. on a Friday night. Not exactly the dream ending to my week. I stood there while she looked through the documents on her desk. For almost a minute, she didn't say anything. That was worse than being yelled at. Finally, she placed the papers down. "Ethan." "Yes, Miss Sterling?" Her eyes lifted. "You know what your biggest problem is." I swallowed. "I assume you're going to tell me." A tiny movement appeared at the corner of her lips. Not a smile. Victoria Sterling didn't smile. "Not at work. You're too confident." I blinked. "That's my biggest problem?" "Yes." She stood up and walked around the desk. "You're talented. You're creative. You solve problems faster than most engineers twice your age." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that supposed to be a compliment?" "No. Of course not." This was Victoria Sterling. Compliments from her were probably considered illegal. She picked up the project report. "You made a mistake that could have cost the company millions." I looked down. "I fixed it." "After you made it?" "Yes." "Do you know why that bothers me?" I hesitated. "Because you expect perfection?" "No." Her answer surprised me. "Because I expected better from you." I looked at her. For a second, I forgot how intimidating she was. "You expected better from me?" "Yes." She placed the report on the table. "Ethan, you don't understand your own ability." I didn't know what to say. Victoria Sterling was criticizing me, but somehow it sounded different. Most managers criticized employees because they wanted someone to blame. Victoria criticized me because she actually cared. That realization made me uncomfortable. Because caring from Victoria Sterling was something nobody expected. She continued, "You rush because you want to prove yourself." "I don't." "You do." "I don't." She looked at me. 1 second. 2 seconds. I immediately looked away. "Okay," I admitted. "Maybe a little." "A little." She crossed her arms. "You stayed 3 nights in the office last month." "I had deadlines." "You skipped meals." "I was busy." "You ignored your health." "I was focused." Her expression changed slightly. "You always have an excuse." I frowned. "Are you saying I'm irresponsible?" "No." Her voice became softer. "I'm saying you treat yourself like you're replaceable." That sentence hit harder than I expected. I didn't answer. Because she was right. I had spent years trying to prove I belonged. I grew up as the kid who wasn't the smartest in the room. I wasn't born into wealth. I didn't have family connections. Everything I had came from working harder than everyone else. Victoria knew that. Somehow she knew. And that confused me. Because Victoria Sterling never seemed interested in anyone. Especially not me. The lecture continued. 10 minutes. 30 minutes. 1 hour. 90 minutes. I honestly thought she was going to keep going until retirement. At one point, I finally interrupted. "Are you almost finished?" The room became silent. I immediately regretted asking. Nobody interrupted Victoria Sterling. Nobody. Her eyes narrowed. "You're asking me if I'm finished?" I cleared my throat. "Yes." A strange expression appeared on her face. Not anger. Something else. Amusement. "You're unbelievable." "I've heard that before." "I'm sure you have." She sat down again. But instead of continuing the lecture, she looked at me quietly. "Ethan." "Yes." "Why do you always joke when things get serious?" I shrugged. "Maybe because serious things are easier when you're laughing." She studied me. Then she asked something I never expected. "Do you think I'm scary?" I almost laughed. "Almost." "Do you want the honest answer?" "Yes." "Yes." For the first time that night, she looked surprised. Most people would lie. Most people want to keep their jobs. And you don't. "I do." That almost made her smile. "Almost." "I don't hate you, Ethan." The sentence shocked me. Because I realized something. She thought I believed she hated me. Maybe I did. Maybe everyone did. "You don't." "No." Then why have you been criticizing me for 2 hours? She looked at me, and then she said something I would remember forever. Because I don't spend 2 hours on people I don't care about. My heart stopped for a second. I didn't know how to respond. Victoria Sterling cared about me? That didn't make sense. She was the CEO. I was just an engineer. She had a company to run. I had rent to pay. We lived in completely different worlds. So naturally, I did the stupidest thing possible. I joked. Well, I leaned against the chair. If you keep spending this much time with me, people might start thinking you like me. Her eyebrow lifted. Is that your conclusion? I smiled. Maybe. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she walked closer. Too close. My smile disappeared. Ethan Parker. Yes. Do you always flirt with your boss after getting criticized? No. Good. She stopped in front of me. Because that would be extremely unprofessional. I nodded. Agreed. A pause. Then I added. But if I wasn't your employee? Her eyes narrowed slightly. What? I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was because I had spent 2 hours being lectured by the woman I secretly admired. Maybe I was tired of pretending. I looked at her and said, if I wasn't your employee. I smiled. I'd probably tell you that someday I'm going to marry you. Silence. Complete silence. The moment the words left my mouth, I realized what I had done. I had just told Victoria Sterling, the most intimidating woman in the company, that I wanted to marry her. I wanted to disappear. I expected anger. I expected embarrassment. I expected her to remind me about professionalism. Instead, Victoria Sterling smiled. Not the polite smile she used during business meetings. Not the cold expression everyone knew. A real smile. She stepped closer and quietly said, someday. I froze. What? She tilted her head. You said someday. I swallowed. Yes. Her eyes stayed on mine. Why wait? My brain stopped working. Victoria. For the first time, she called me by my first name without a professional tone. Ethan. She reached out and fixed the crooked tie I had been wearing all day. Then she looked at me and said, then marry me now. I forgot how to breathe. The woman who controlled a billion-dollar company. The woman who terrified executives. The woman who never showed weakness. Just asked me to marry her. And somehow, the scariest woman in my life became the only person who made my heart race. I thought she was joking. I was wrong. Because the next morning, the entire company would find out that Victoria Sterling never made promises she didn't intend to keep. I spent the entire night convincing myself that Victoria Sterling had been joking. That was the only explanation that made sense. Because there was no way the woman who controlled a billion-dollar company had looked me in the eyes and seriously said, marry me now. It had to be sarcasm. A test. Maybe even a punishment for my stupid comment. That was what I told myself while I drove to work the next morning. But the moment I walked into Sterling Technologies, I knew something was different. People were looking at me. Not normal looks. Not the usual, that's the guy who fixed the AI system last month looks. These were different. Confused. Curious. Almost shocked. I walked toward my desk and saw my coworker, Ryan Mitchell, staring at me like I had just walked out of a movie. What? I asked. Ryan immediately stood up. Dude. I frowned. What? He looked around before lowering his voice. Are you okay? I laughed. That's a strange question to ask at 9 a.m. No, seriously. He stepped closer. Did something happen with Victoria Sterling last night? My entire body froze. What are you talking about? Ryan stared at me. So you're telling me you don't know? Know what? Before he could answer, every screen in the office suddenly changed. A company-wide announcement appeared. Everyone stopped working. I looked at the screen. My heart almost stopped. It was a message from Victoria Sterling. Not a regular company update. A personal announcement. Effective immediately, Ethan Parker will lead the company's most important development project directly under my supervision. People started whispering. Ryan looked at me. Bro. I ignored him and kept reading. Then I saw the next sentence. Any decisions regarding this project will require my approval. That was unusual. Very unusual. Victoria trusted very few people. But there was more. The final sentence appeared. Ethan Parker has my complete confidence. The entire office went silent. Because everyone knew what that meant. Victoria Sterling didn't publicly praise anyone. Ever. Ryan slowly turned toward me. What did you do? I stared at the screen. I didn't know. That was the truth. I had spent last night thinking I embarrassed myself. But now the entire company knew Victoria Sterling trusted me, and I had no idea why. My phone buzzed. A message. From Victoria. Come to my office. Now. I looked at the message. Ryan noticed my expression. Is that her? I nodded. He took a step back. Good luck. I walked to Victoria's office feeling like I was going into a courtroom. Except the judge was the woman who asked me to marry her. I knocked. Come in. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I opened the door. Victoria was sitting behind her desk, reviewing documents. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked exactly like Victoria Sterling, the woman who made everyone nervous. I closed the door. You wanted to see me? Yes. I waited. She continued reading. After 30 seconds, I couldn't handle it. Are you going to explain what happened? She looked up. What happened? I stared at her. Victoria. A small smile appeared. You're using my first name again. You asked me to marry you yesterday. I did. My eyes widened. You admit it? Of course. You weren't joking? No. The confidence in her answer shocked me. I sat down. Wait. She put the documents down. Yes. You're serious? Yes. About marrying me? Yes. I laughed nervously. I need to understand something. Go ahead. You are Victoria Sterling. Yes. The CEO of this company. Yes. And I'm Ethan Parker. I'm aware. A junior engineer who accidentally confessed to his boss after getting yelled at for 2 hours. Her expression softened. That's one way to describe it. What's the other way? She looked at me. The man who finally said what he was thinking. I stopped. Because that answer was not what I expected. Victoria stood up and walked toward the window. I've spent years building this company. I know. I've negotiated billion-dollar contracts. I know. I've dealt with investors, competitors, and people who wanted to destroy everything I built. She turned around. But the hardest thing I've ever done was admit that I wanted something for myself. I didn't say anything. She continued. Everyone sees me as a CEO. They see the position, the money, the power. But nobody asks what I want. Her eyes met mine. Except you. I was confused. When did I ask? She smiled slightly. You didn't. Then how? Because you treated me like a person. I remembered. The first week I joined the company, I was the only person who told her. You look tired. You should sleep more. Everyone else was afraid of her. I wasn't. Not because I was brave. Because I didn't realize I was supposed to be afraid. Victoria walked closer. You never tried to impress me. I definitely did. No. She shook her head. You tried to be yourself. That sentence hit me. Because nobody had ever described me that way. Victoria stopped in front of my desk. Ethan. Yes. I know this is sudden. That's an understatement. I know our positions are different. Yes. I know people will talk. Definitely. Then why aren't you saying no? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because I didn't have an answer. The truth was simple. I liked her. I had liked her for months. I just never believed someone like Victoria Sterling could like someone like me. I don't know, I finally said. Her expression changed. A little disappointed. But only for a second. Then I added. But I don't want to say no. She looked at me. Really looked at me. Why? I smiled. Because I think the woman everyone calls an ice queen is actually the sweetest person I know. For the first time ever, Victoria Sterling looked embarrassed. Actually embarrassed. She looked away. Don't say things like that. Why? Because I'm trying to maintain my reputation. I laughed. Your reputation? Yes. As the terrifying CEO? Yes. Well, I leaned back. You just asked an employee to marry you. She looked at me. That was different. How? Because I meant it. The room became quiet. And somehow, those 4 words meant more than anything else. Because Victoria Sterling didn't say things she didn't mean. She never had. A few minutes later, she walked back to her desk and picked up a folder. What's that? Your new contract. I frowned. My contract? Yes. I opened it. I expected a promotion. Maybe a salary adjustment. Instead, I saw something completely unexpected. A leadership position. A major role. A future I had never imagined. I looked at her. You're giving me this? No. She shook her head. I'm giving you the opportunity you earned. I stared at the document. Then I looked at her. You really believe in me? Yes. Why? Victoria answered immediately. Because I see the man you're going to become. My chest tightened. Nobody had ever believed in me like that. Not like this. Then she added, and because… She paused, a rare moment of hesitation. Because I want that man to come home to me every night. I forgot every thought I had. Victoria Sterling, the woman who scared everyone, was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. And for the first time, I started wondering if maybe my impossible dream wasn't impossible at all. Maybe the Ice Queen CEO really did want me. Not as an employee, not as a project, but as the person she chose. For the next few days, I kept waiting for reality to catch up with me. I kept expecting someone to walk into my office and tell me it was all a misunderstanding. I kept expecting Victoria Sterling to suddenly return to the woman everyone knew. The untouchable CEO. The woman who never showed emotion. The woman who could make a room full of executives silent with one look. But she didn't. Instead, she became someone completely different when we were alone. And that was the most confusing part. Because everyone else saw Victoria Sterling as a storm. But I was starting to see the person standing behind it. The first time I noticed the difference was during a company meeting. I was presenting the progress of the new project. Around the table sat some of the most powerful people in the company. Executives, investors, department heads, people who had worked with Victoria for years. I finished my presentation and waited. One of the senior executives, Richard Coleman, leaned back in his chair. I have concerns. Of course, there was always someone with concerns. Richard had never liked me. He believed young employees needed to spend 10 years proving themselves before they deserved important positions. Ethan is talented, Richard said, looking at Victoria, but this project is too important to be handled by someone with limited leadership experience. The room became quiet. Everyone waited for Victoria's response. Usually, she would give a logical answer, a professional answer. But this time, something different happened. She looked at Richard. Are you questioning Ethan's ability? Richard hesitated. I'm questioning the decision. That wasn't my question. His expression changed. No. Then answer mine. Victoria's voice remained calm. Are you saying Ethan failed? Richard looked uncomfortable. No. Are you saying his results are below expectations? No. Are you saying his team doesn't support him? Richard didn't answer. Because everyone knew the answer. They did support me. Victoria leaned forward. Then your concern isn't about performance. The room was silent. It's about your personal opinion of him. Richard's face changed. Victoria, I'm only trying to protect this company. No. She interrupted. You're trying to protect the old way this company worked. Nobody moved. Victoria looked around the room. Sterling Technologies didn't become successful because we waited for people to become comfortable. Her eyes moved toward me. It became successful because we gave talented people the chance to prove themselves. I felt something strange. She wasn't just defending my project. She was defending me. Publicly. In front of everyone. After the meeting ended, I followed her into the hallway. Victoria. She stopped. Yes. You didn't have to do that. Do what? Defend me like that. She looked confused. Why wouldn't I? Because now everyone thinks I only got this position because of you. Her expression immediately changed. Not angry. Hurt. Do you really believe that? I froze. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. She stepped closer. Ethan, do you think I would risk my company's reputation for someone who didn't deserve it? No. Do you think I would put my own credibility on the line because I like you? I didn't answer. Because honestly, maybe I did think that. Victoria looked at me. I chose you because you're capable. Then she lowered her voice. I chose you because you're the only person who makes me believe I don't have to carry everything alone. That was the moment I realized something. Victoria Sterling wasn't cold. She was exhausted. For years, she had been forced to be strong. Nobody asked if she was tired. Nobody asked if she needed help. Everyone just expected her to handle everything. And somehow, she had let me see that side of her. That night, after work, she asked me to join her for dinner. Not a business dinner. Not an event. Just dinner. I almost said no. Not because I didn't want to go. Because I didn't know how to act around her outside the office. At work, she was my boss. Outside, she was the woman who wanted to marry me. That was a dangerous combination. When I arrived, she was already there. And I almost didn't recognize her. No business suit. No serious expression. No CEO attitude. Just Victoria. A woman sitting across from me. I smiled. This feels strange. What does? You're not intimidating everyone around you. She looked at me. Do I intimidate you? I thought about lying. Then I remembered who I was talking to. Yes. She raised an eyebrow. Really? Yes. A small smile appeared. But not because you're scary. Then why? Because you're Victoria Sterling. She looked away. That doesn't answer my question. I smiled. Because I care what you think. For a second, she said nothing. Then she quietly asked, do you know how long it has been since someone said that to me? I shook my head. No. Years. I looked at her. Seriously? Yes. She played with the edge of her glass. People either want something from me or they're afraid of me. And me? She looked up. You're different. Why? Because when you first met me. She paused. You spilled coffee on my desk. I immediately laughed. Oh no. You remember? Unfortunately. That was the first time someone didn't apologize 10 times. I thought you were going to fire me. I considered it. I laughed. But you didn't. No. Why? Victoria looked at me. Because you look more worried about cleaning my desk than losing your job. I smiled. That sounds like me. It is. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, that was when I noticed you. My smile faded. You noticed me? Yes. Back then? Yes. I couldn't believe it. Victoria, you're telling me you noticed me because I spilled coffee? No. She shook her head. I noticed you because after you spilled coffee, you stayed an extra hour to help the assistant organize the documents you didn't even damage. I didn't remember that. But she did. You remember that? I remember everything about you. The words were simple, but they hit me harder than anything else. Because Victoria Sterling, the woman who remembered billion-dollar deals, remembered me. A small mistake. A small kindness. A small moment nobody else cared about. She remembered. Why didn't you tell me? She looked down. Because I was your boss. And now? A pause. Then she looked at me. Now I'm asking you to let me be something else. My heart started beating faster. What? She smiled softly. Someone who gets to stand beside you. For the first time, I saw it clearly. The woman everyone called an ice queen wasn't waiting for someone to save her. She was waiting for someone who would choose her. And somehow, she had chosen me first. That was when I realized something. Victoria Sterling wasn't the woman I needed to convince to love me. She was the woman who had already fallen. She was just waiting for me to believe it. I thought dating Victoria Sterling would be the hardest part. I was wrong. The hardest part was convincing everyone else that I wasn't just a temporary decision. Because when the news started spreading around Sterling Technologies, people had opinions. A lot of opinions. Some people congratulated me. Some people looked at me like I had somehow won a lottery. And some people believed I didn't belong beside her. I knew that would happen. Victoria was one of the most powerful women in the business world. I was a young engineer who had worked my way up without connections. On paper, we made no sense. And the people who disliked me never let me forget it. Especially Richard Coleman. 2 weeks after Victoria and I started seeing each other, Richard stopped me outside the conference room. Ethan. I turned around. Richard. He looked at me for a few seconds. You seem comfortable. I frowned. What does that mean? It means you got lucky. I immediately understood what he was saying. I stayed calm. Excuse me. Richard adjusted his suit. Let's not pretend everyone doesn't know what happened. What happened? You impressed Victoria? Yes. You became her favorite employee. No. I looked directly at him. I became someone who earned my position. His expression hardened. Careful. About what? Thinking you belong in a world you just entered. That sentence bothered me. Not because Richard insulted me. Because a small part of me wondered if he was right. Maybe I didn't belong. Maybe Victoria was seeing something in me that I couldn't see myself. Before I could respond, another voice interrupted. Richard. We both turned. Victoria was standing behind us. I didn't know how long she had been there. But judging by Richard's expression, long enough. Ms. Sterling. Her face was calm. Too calm. What exactly are you suggesting? Richard immediately changed his tone. Nothing. No. Victoria walked closer. You were suggesting something. The hallway became silent. Employees nearby suddenly became very interested in their computers. Richard cleared his throat. I was simply reminding Ethan that this company has standards. Victoria looked at him. Do you believe Ethan doesn't meet those standards? Richard hesitated. I believe emotions can influence business decisions. I felt my stomach tighten. There it was. The accusation everyone was thinking. That I was only here because of Victoria. But before I could say anything, Victoria spoke. Then let me make something clear. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. Ethan Parker earned his position before he ever had my attention. Nobody moved. Victoria continued. He solved problems that senior engineers failed to solve. He stayed late when others went home. He protected his team when mistakes happened. Her eyes moved toward me, and he never once asked me for special treatment. I looked at her. Because that was true. I never did. Not even after I knew how she felt. Richard shook his head. Victoria, you're defending him because you care about him. Yes. The answer came immediately. Everyone froze, including me. Victoria didn't hesitate. Yes, I care about him. She stepped closer to me. But that doesn't erase his achievements. Her voice became stronger. It proves I have excellent judgment. Nobody said anything. Richard looked uncomfortable. Victoria? No. She stopped him. You're confusing my personal feelings with my professional decisions. Then she did something I never expected. She reached out and took my hand. Right there. In the hallway. In front of everyone. My brain stopped working. Because Victoria Sterling avoided public displays of emotion. Everyone knew that. She hated showing weakness. But she was holding my hand like she didn't care who saw. Ethan is not here because he is close to me. She looked around. He is close to me because he deserves to be. I felt my chest tighten. Nobody had ever defended me like that. Not like this. Not publicly. Not without hesitation. After Richard left, I stood there silently. Victoria looked at me. What? I smiled slightly. You just held my hand in front of the entire company. Yes. You hate attention. Yes. You hate people talking about your personal life. Yes. I raised an eyebrow. Then why did you do it? She looked confused. Because it was true. That's it. Yes. She tilted her head. Ethan, why is that surprising? Because you're Victoria Sterling. She looked at me. And you don't do things without calculating the consequences. A small smile appeared. That's where you're wrong. About what? When it comes to you. She paused. I don't calculate. I stared at her. The woman who could predict market changes. The woman who negotiated billion-dollar contracts. The woman who always had a plan. Was telling me she stopped planning when it came to me. That sounds dangerous. It is. For you. For both of us. I laughed. Should I be worried? No. She squeezed my hand. You should be happy. I smiled. You're very confident. I am. Why? Because I know what I want. And what do you want? She looked directly at me. You. The simplicity of her answer destroyed every defense I had. No complicated explanation. No hesitation. Just me. That night, I stayed late finishing work. Victoria came by my office around 10 p.m. You're still here. I looked up. You're still here too. I'm the CEO. And I'm the person you keep telling not to overwork. She smiled. You remember that? I remember everything you tell me. She walked inside. You should go home. You're ordering me? Yes. Boss mode. Yes. I packed my things. Then I noticed something on my desk. A small paper bag. What's this? Victoria looked away. Nothing. I opened it. Inside was dinner. My favorite sandwich. And a handwritten note. I looked at her. You made this? No. Victoria. She sighed. My assistant helped. I smiled. Your assistant helped you write a note? No. I looked at the note. It said, don't forget to eat. You're important to me. My heart softened. You wrote this. She didn't answer, which meant yes. I looked at her. You know everyone thinks you're cold. I know. They're wrong. She looked at me. Why? Because you're actually the most caring person I know. She immediately looked away. You say too many things. Do you dislike it? No. Then why complain? Because... She hesitated. Because I'm not used to someone seeing me this clearly. That was the moment I understood. Victoria didn't need someone to admire her achievements. She needed someone who saw the person behind them. And I wanted to be that person. But I also knew something. Being with Victoria Sterling wouldn't be easy. There would be people who questioned us. There would be people who tried to separate us. There would be challenges neither of us could avoid. But as I watched the woman everyone called an ice queen quietly wait for me to finish packing my bag, I realized something. I wasn't afraid of those challenges anymore. Because the most powerful woman in the world had chosen me. And I was ready to choose her too. For the first time in my life, I had everything I thought I wanted. A career I was proud of. A future I could build. and a woman who made me feel like I was the only person in the world. But there was one problem. I was scared. Not of Victoria. Never of Victoria. I was scared of what being with her meant. Every day, I saw the difference between our worlds. She walked into meetings where people talked about billion-dollar decisions. I walked into meetings hoping my ideas would be taken seriously. She had built an empire. I was still trying to prove I belonged in the same room. And the more I loved her, the more I worried that one day she would realize I didn't belong beside her. I didn't tell her. That was my mistake. Because Victoria Sterling noticed everything. Except the one thing I was hiding. My insecurity. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. We were invited to a company charity event. It was supposed to be a simple evening. Dinner. Networking. A few speeches. But the moment we arrived, I felt it. The looks. The whispers. People weren't looking at Victoria. They were looking at me. I heard someone behind us quietly say, "That's him." Yeah. The engineer? Victoria really chose him? I pretended not to hear. Victoria noticed. Of course she did. She leaned closer. "Ethan, I'm fine." I didn't ask if you were fine. I looked at her. She gave me that familiar CEO look. The one that meant she already knew the answer. "You heard them." I sighed. "Yes." And nothing. "Ethan." I looked away. "Victoria, maybe they're right." The second I said it, I regretted it. Her expression changed. "What did you say?" I forced a smile. "Nothing." "No." Her voice became serious. "Say it again." I looked at her. "Maybe they're right." "About what?" "That I don't belong here." Silence. Victoria stared at me. Not angry. Hurt. "You believe that?" "I don't know." "Yes, you do." She stepped closer. "Ethan, look at me." I did. "You think I chose you because I made a mistake?" "No." "Then why are you acting like you're something I have to apologize for?" My chest tightened. "That's not what I mean." "Then what do you mean?" I didn't answer. Because the truth sounded stupid. I was afraid of losing someone who had never given me a reason to doubt her. Victoria softened. "Ethan." Her voice was quieter. "You need to understand something." "What?" "I didn't choose you because you fit into my world." She took my hand. "I chose you because you changed mine." I looked at her. She continued. "Before you, everything was about winning. Winning deals. Winning negotiations. Winning against people who wanted to see me fail." She smiled sadly. "Then you came along and treated me like I was just Victoria." That hit me. Because that was exactly what I had done. I never saw her as a CEO first. I saw her as a woman. But I still couldn't stop doubting myself. I just don't want to become someone people think you have to protect. Her eyes narrowed. "Protect?" "Yes." "Ethan, do you know what bothers me?" "What?" "That you still don't understand how I see you." She stepped closer. "You think I see a man who needs saving." She shook her head. "I see the man who makes me stronger." I didn't know what to say. Because nobody had ever described me that way. Later that night, after we returned home, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything. About Victoria. About the pressure. About the future. And then I made the worst decision of my life. I decided to leave. Not because I stopped loving her. Because I loved her too much. The next morning, I wrote my resignation letter. I placed it on her desk. When Victoria walked in and saw it, she immediately stopped. "What is this?" I looked at her. "My resignation." Her face changed. "No." I blinked. "No. No. Victoria. No." She picked up the paper. "You're leaving?" "I think it's better." "For who?" I didn't answer. "For you." "Yes." She laughed once. But there was no humor in it. "You think leaving me is helping me?" "I think you deserve someone who fits your life." Her expression became cold. Not the CEO cold. Something deeper. "You really don't understand." "Understand what?" She walked around the desk. "You think I want someone who fits my life?" "Yes." "No." She stopped in front of me. "I want someone who makes me want a different life." I looked at her. "Victoria?" "No." She shook her head. "You don't get to decide that I'm better without you." The confidence in her voice disappeared. And for the first time, I saw fear. Real fear. "You're leaving because you think you're not enough." I stayed silent. She was right. Victoria put the resignation letter down. Then she did something I never expected. She grabbed my hand. Not like a CEO. Like someone afraid of losing someone. "Ethan." Her voice softened. "If you want to leave this company, I won't stop you." I looked at her. "But don't leave me." My heart stopped. Because Victoria Sterling never begged anyone. Ever. I can replace an employee. She looked at me. But I can't replace you. I swallowed. Victoria. She took a breath, then said the words that completely broke through my walls. Do you really think I spent months watching you, supporting you, believing in you? Her eyes became emotional. Just because I wanted a good employee? I couldn't speak. No. She stepped closer. I did it because I fell in love with you. The room became silent. The woman who never showed weakness, the woman who controlled everything, was standing in front of me, afraid that I would walk away. And suddenly I realized something. I had been worried about not being enough for her. But I never considered that maybe. She was afraid of not being enough for me. I reached for her hand. Victoria. She looked at me. I'm sorry. Her eyes softened. For what? For thinking I had to leave to prove I cared. A small smile appeared. That was a terrible plan. I laughed. Yeah, it was. She squeezed my hand. Promise me something. What? Next time you're afraid. She looked at me. Talk to me. I nodded. I promise. She studied me, then whispered. Good. Because I was already planning our future. I smiled. Already? Yes. You're impossible. I'm aware. And what exactly is this future? For the first time, Victoria looked shy. Actually shy? She looked away. A future where you come home to me. My heart melted. Because I finally understood. Victoria Sterling didn't want me because I was perfect. She wanted me because I was Ethan. And that was enough. After that night, something changed between Victoria and me. Not because she became a different person. She was still Victoria Sterling. She still walked into meetings and made executives nervous. She still made decisions faster than anyone else. She still had that calm expression that made people think twice before speaking. But when it was just the two of us, the Ice Queen disappeared, and I got to see the woman nobody else knew. The first person to notice was Ryan. He walked into my office one morning, stopped at the door, and stared at me. I looked up. What? He didn't answer. He just looked around my office, then at me, then back around. Okay. I frowned. Okay, what? I have questions. That sounds dangerous. First question. He pointed at the coffee cup on my desk. Did Victoria Sterling bring you coffee? I looked down. Yes. Ryan's eyes widened. Second question. He pointed at the small note beside it. Did she write that? I tried to hide my smile. Yes. Ryan took a step back. No. What? No. I refused to believe this. I laughed. You're acting like you discovered a conspiracy. Ethan, do you understand what happened? What? The woman who once rejected a business proposal because the font was slightly wrong. He pointed at the coffee. Made you coffee. I smiled. She cares. Ryan stared at me. That's terrifying. Why? Because Victoria Sterling caring about someone means she probably cares more about you than the company. I laughed. That's impossible. But deep down, I knew he wasn't completely wrong. Victoria cared deeply. Sometimes too deeply. And that was something I was still learning to accept. A few days later, I saw another side of her. A side nobody at the company had ever witnessed. We were leaving the office late. Again, I noticed she looked tired. You're exhausted. I'm fine. I gave her a look. She stopped. What? You tell me that every time. Because it's true. No. I shook my head. Because you're Victoria Sterling, and you think admitting you're tired is illegal. She looked at me. Then surprisingly, she laughed. A real laugh. I stopped walking. What? She looked confused. What? You laughed. Yes. I smiled. I don't think I've heard you laugh like that before. She looked away. Maybe people don't give me reasons to. That answer stayed with me. Because it was such a simple sentence. But it explained so much. Everyone wanted something from Victoria. Her money. Her influence. Her approval. Nobody wanted to make her happy. Except me. And I wanted to. The next morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual. When I walked into my office, I found something unexpected. A small box. I opened it. Inside was a watch. Not an expensive-looking one. Not something flashy. Just a simple, elegant watch. There was a note. For the man who forgets time exists when he's working. I smiled. Victoria. I walked straight to her office. She looked up when I entered. You like it? I held up the watch. You bought this? Yes. Why? Because you always miss meetings because you forget to check the time. I laughed. That happened twice. 7 times. 7. Yes. I smiled. You counted. She looked away. No. You definitely counted. She didn't answer, which meant yes. I walked closer. Victoria. Yes. You really pay attention to everything about me. Her expression softened. Yes. Why? She looked at me like the answer was obvious. Because you matter. That sentence was so simple, but it meant everything. Later that week, something happened that reminded me exactly who Victoria was. We were in a meeting with a major investor. The investor was an older businessman named Daniel Brooks. He had worked with Victoria's father before. He respected her professionally, but he didn't respect me. During the meeting, he looked at my proposal, then smiled. Interesting. I knew that tone. It wasn't a compliment. It's ambitious, Daniel said. Thank you. But perhaps too ambitious for someone your age. The room became quiet. I expected Victoria to respond, but I wanted to handle it myself. I understand your concern. Daniel nodded. Good. But I also believe results matter more than age. His smile faded slightly. I hope you can prove that. Before I could continue, Victoria spoke. He already has. Everyone looked at her. Daniel smiled. Victoria, I'm not questioning your judgment. Yes, you are. The room froze. Her voice was calm, but firm. Daniel leaned back. I simply think. No. Victoria interrupted. You think because Ethan is young, he needs permission to be talented. Nobody spoke. Victoria continued. I hired him because he earned it. She looked at me. And I trust him because he proved it. I felt something in my chest. Not pride. Something deeper. Because Victoria didn't defend me because she loved me. She defended me because she believed in me. There was a difference. After the meeting, I caught up with her. You didn't have to do that. She looked at me. Again. I smiled. You always say that. And you always need to hear the answer. What answer? She stopped walking. I will always stand beside you. I looked at her. Even when people disagree? Yes. Even when it's difficult? Yes. Even when everyone thinks you're wrong? She stepped closer. Especially then. I smiled. You're really stubborn. Yes. Bossy. Yes. Impossible. Yes. I laughed. You agree with everything. Because you're correct. That made me laugh even harder. Then she became serious. Ethan. Yes. I want you to know something. What? I don't need you to become like me. I listened. I don't need you to have my money. I don't need you to have my company. I don't need you to prove anything. She touched my hand. I just need you to stay Ethan. For years, I had tried to become someone impressive, someone powerful, someone who deserved respect. But Victoria never asked me to become someone else. She loved the person I already was. That was when I realized something. The biggest misunderstanding of my life was thinking I had to climb higher to reach her. I was wrong. Victoria Sterling had already walked down from the top. She had come all the way to me. And she wasn't looking for someone beneath her. She was looking for someone beside her. And that person was me. After everything that happened, I thought I finally understood Victoria Sterling. I was wrong. Because just when I thought I had seen every side of her, she surprised me again. The woman who could negotiate billion-dollar contracts. The woman who could walk into a room full of powerful executives without hesitation. The woman who never showed nervousness. Was nervous. Because she was planning something. I noticed it immediately. Victoria was terrible at hiding things from me. Not because she wasn't intelligent. She was one of the smartest people I had ever met. But because she forgot one important thing. I knew her. I knew when she was pretending to be calm. I knew when she was thinking too much. And I definitely knew when something was bothering her. One evening, I found her sitting in her office long after everyone had left. She wasn't working. That alone was suspicious. Victoria Sterling never stopped working unless something important was happening. I knocked on the open door. You're still here. She looked up. Ethan. I walked inside. What are you doing? Thinking. That's dangerous. She raised an eyebrow. Are you insulting me? No. I smiled. I'm saying whenever you think too much, something big happens. She looked away. That's not true. It is. She was quiet. I sat across from her. Victoria. Yes. What's wrong? Nothing. I stared at her. She sighed. You've become very difficult to lie to. I learned from the best. A small smile appeared, then disappeared. I was thinking about us. That caught my attention. Us. Yes. I leaned forward. What about us? She looked down at her hands. And that was when I realized something. Victoria Sterling was nervous. The woman who never hesitated was actually nervous. Are you okay? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Victoria. She looked at me. What? You're avoiding the question. She smiled slightly. You're becoming more like me. That sounds scary. It is. I laughed. But then she became serious. Ethan. Yes. Do you ever regret meeting me? The question surprised me. What? Do you ever think your life would be easier if you never walked into my office? I immediately shook my head. No. You answered too quickly. Because it's obvious. She looked at me. Is it? Yes. I stood up and walked toward her. Victoria, before you, I was just trying to survive. She watched me. I was working hard because I thought that was all I had. I smiled. Then you came along. And you made me believe I was more than my job. Her expression softened. You did that yourself. No. I shook my head. You believed in me before I believed in myself. The room became quiet. Then she said, that's why I'm afraid. I froze. Afraid? Yes. Of what? She looked at me. Of losing the one person who sees me. My heart tightened. Because everyone saw Victoria Sterling. The CEO. The billionaire. The powerful woman. But very few people saw Victoria. The woman. I reached for her hand. You're not losing me. She looked at me. Promise. I smiled. I promise. A few days later, Victoria told me she wanted to take me somewhere. She wouldn't say where. That immediately made me suspicious. Victoria. Yes. Should I be worried? No. Are you sure? Yes. Because whenever someone says no that confidently, it usually means yes. She smiled. You talk too much. You like that? I do. I smiled. She really admitted it. That was still something I wasn't used to. When we arrived, I realized where we were. It was the first building where I interviewed for Sterling Technologies. The place where we first met. I looked at her. You brought me here? Yes. Why? She looked around. Because this is where everything started. I remembered that day. I was nervous. She was intimidating. I spilled coffee. I thought my career was over. Instead, it became the beginning of everything. Victoria looked at me. Do you remember what you said here? I frowned. No. Yes, you do. I thought. Then I laughed. You mean when I said you looked tired? Yes. That was a terrible first impression. No. She shook her head. It was my favorite. I smiled. Why? Because everyone else saw Victoria Sterling. She looked at me. You saw me. Those words hit me. Then she reached into her bag. My heart stopped. Because I knew what that meant. She took out a small box. No. She couldn't be serious. Victoria opened it. Inside was a ring. I stared. Victoria. She smiled. You remember what you said? I laughed nervously. You mean the thing where I jokingly said I would marry you? Yes. That was months ago. I know. And you remembered? I told you. She looked at me. I remember everything about you. I couldn't speak. Then Victoria Sterling did something nobody would ever believe. She got down on one knee. The woman who had thousands of employees. The woman who had people asking for her approval. The woman who never bowed to anyone. Was kneeling in front of me. Victoria, what are you doing? She smiled. Something I should have done sooner. I looked around. There was nobody else. No cameras. No reporters. No company executives. Just us. She held the ring. Ethan Parker. My heart was racing. You once said you would marry me someday. She looked directly into my eyes. So I have a question. A smile appeared. Why should I wait? I laughed because it sounded exactly like her. Always confident. Always direct. Then she said, Ethan. Her voice softened. Will you marry me? I forgot every word I knew. Because this was Victoria. My ice-cold boss. My impossible dream. The woman who once stood above everyone. And now she was standing in front of me, asking me to choose her. I reached down and helped her stand. You know something? What? You're supposed to let the guy propose. She smiled. I don't follow rules. I noticed. So, I looked at the ring. Then at her. Yes. Her eyes softened. Yes. I smiled. Yes, Victoria. She laughed. Not the CEO laugh. Not the polite public smile. A real laugh. Then she hugged me. And the woman everyone called an ice queen whispered. I was hoping you would say that. I held her close. And for the first time, I understood something. The biggest moment of my life wasn't when I earned my position. It wasn't when I proved myself. It wasn't when people finally respected me. It was when the most powerful woman I knew looked at me and said, "I choose you." And I realized I had chosen her a long time ago. I used to think the hardest moment of my life would be proving myself. I thought it would be getting a better job, building a successful career, showing everyone that Ethan Parker wasn't just some ordinary engineer. I never imagined the hardest thing would be accepting that someone like Victoria Sterling could truly love someone like me. But she did, and she proved it every single day. After our engagement became public, Sterling Technologies completely changed. Not because Victoria became less powerful. She didn't. If anything, she became even more impressive. But people finally understood something. Victoria Sterling wasn't cold because she didn't have feelings. She was cold because she spent years protecting them. And somehow, I became the person she trusted enough to let those feelings show. The announcement of our engagement caused a massive reaction. The business world was shocked. News outlets wanted interviews. Investors wanted explanations. Everyone wanted to know why Victoria Sterling, one of the most successful CEOs in America, chose a young engineer. At first, I thought she would avoid talking about it. That was what Victoria always did. She controlled information. She controlled situations. She never gave people anything personal. But during the first company meeting after our engagement, she surprised everyone. The entire company was gathered. Hundreds of employees, executives, managers, everyone. Victoria stood on stage. I stood beside her. I expected her to give a professional statement. Something simple. Something safe. Instead, she looked at everyone and said, "I know many of you have questions about my relationship with Ethan Parker." The room became silent. She continued, "And I want to answer them." I looked at her. Because this wasn't the Victoria I knew from business meetings. This was Victoria choosing honesty. Ethan is not with me because of my position. He is not with me because of my company. He is not with me because of my name. She looked at me. He is with me because he is the person who saw me before anyone else did. I felt my chest tighten. She continued, "And I am with him because he reminds me that success means nothing if you have nobody to share it with." Nobody spoke, because nobody expected that from her. Then she did something even more surprising. She reached for my hand, in front of everyone. Again, the same woman who once hated showing emotion was standing there holding my hand proudly. "This is Ethan Parker." She smiled. "My future husband." The entire room erupted in applause. I looked at her. "You really like surprising people." She whispered, "Only when the surprise is worth it." I laughed. That was Victoria. Even her romantic moments sounded like business strategies. But I loved that about her. The wedding preparation was probably the most stressful thing I had ever experienced. Not because Victoria was difficult. Actually, she was the opposite. She surprised me. Everyone expected her to want a huge, expensive wedding. Something luxurious. Something that showed her status. But when I asked her what she wanted, she answered, "You." I blinked. "That's it." "Yes." "No giant event." "No." "No celebrity guests." "No." "No business leaders?" She shook her head. "I spent my whole life impressing people I didn't care about." Then she looked at me. "For once, I want something that belongs only to us." That sentence meant more than any expensive gift. Because Victoria had everything money could buy. But what she wanted was something money couldn't create. A real relationship. A real home. A real family. On the day of our wedding, I stood there waiting for her. And when she appeared, I forgot every thought in my head. Not because she looked beautiful. She always did. It was because I saw her expression. Victoria Sterling, the woman who never showed fear, looked nervous. I smiled when she reached me. "You're nervous." She looked at me. "I am not." "You are." "No." "Victoria." She sighed. "Maybe a little." I smiled. I never thought I'd see this. "What?" "The most powerful woman in the room being nervous because of me." She looked at me. "Because of you?" "Yes." She smiled. "No." She shook her head. "Because I finally have something I can lose." That was the moment I understood. Love was scary for Victoria. Not because she didn't know how to love. Because she finally had someone important enough to hurt her. I held her hand. "You're not losing me." She looked at me. "Promise." "I promise." After we became husband and wife, life didn't suddenly become perfect. We still argued. We still had different opinions. Victoria was still stubborn. I was still too sarcastic. But we learned something. A perfect relationship wasn't about never having problems. It was about choosing each other every time. Years later, people still talked about our story. They talked about how an ice-cold CEO fell in love with her young engineer. They talked about how the most untouchable woman in business became completely different around one man. But they always got one thing wrong. They said I melted Victoria Sterling's cold heart. That wasn't true. Victoria's heart was never cold. It was just waiting for someone she trusted. And somehow, that person was me. Sometimes, when we were at home, I would tease her. "Do you remember the first time you told me to marry you?" She would look at me. "You mean the first time you challenged me?" I laughed. "You make it sound like a business deal. You started it." "I did not. You told your boss you would marry her. That was romantic. That was reckless. And yet," she smiled. "And yet I said yes." I would always shake my head. I still can't believe it. What? That the woman who scared an entire company actually fell in love with me. Victoria would always give me the same answer. "Ethan, yes. I didn't fall in love with you because you were special." I would frown. "That sounds insulting." She would smile. "I fell in love with you because you made me feel special." And every time she said that, I remembered the night everything started. The 2-hour lecture. The argument. The ridiculous confession. The moment I thought I had embarrassed myself forever. I thought I was making a joke when I said, "Someday I'll marry you." But Victoria Sterling looked at me and answered, "Then marry me now." And she was right. Why wait? Because sometimes the person you think is impossible to reach is the person who has been waiting for you all along. And that was how Ethan Parker, an ordinary young engineer, ended up marrying Victoria Sterling, the ice-cold boss who became the warmest person in my world.